What is going on, you fantasy studs? Welcome to the Four Horsemen podcast. On my left over here, we got Karlos, and
Quattro.
to the right of me, we got Gil, and we got Jack.
Oh, yeah.
I'm your host today, Nick Romeo. What is going on today, guys? How was your weekend in fantasy?
Not terrible. Welcome back, Nick, by the way. It's glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely good to have Nick back. It was definitely weird doing the Four Horsemen podcast last week.
What did Karlos say?
We were the three wise men.
Yeah, that's what were you saying? The three wise men last week?
It's like three wise men, three kings. If you want to get religious, not bad, but no, we needed a fourth.
It was a good weekend.
Well, thank you guys.
It was great for you. Just let me add, Jack blew me out of the water over this weekend.
Oh, no.
It's Tyler Lockett, guys. It's Tyler Lockett. What can I say?
Hey, can we get an audible mention to Mark Malusis, a.k.a. Moose, for not taking Josh Jacobs out of his lineup? Easy win.
Wasn't that close for you? I could have sworn that was a close one.
Yeah. Easy win.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Easy.
Yep, definitely moving on, guys. All right, we got a good one for you today. Last week we were into the studs. Now we're going to talk about the duds going into week 3.
Womp womp.
Week 1 and 2, we're looking at everyone's progression from here on out. Karlos, let's start with you. Who do you got?
So my absolute, and I'm going to go off on a rant here because I've hated this player since last year, and I'm going to be guilty of being a hypocrite because I drafted said player. Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Kansas City Chiefs. Guys, I mean, we were talking about this offline, and I already feel myself like palpitating in terms of my heart. Is there any bigger bust in a running back position than Edwards-Helaire? Is it game script? Do they not know how to use him, or is it overall talent? I just think he's a scrub.
I think I also look at his stats last season, too. You got to look back at it. He's supposed to be a Kareem Hunt role, and he's just not performing that way.
Let me read off his numbers from last week.
Okay.
13 rushing attempts. Which, okay, middling volume for a back-end RB1 or high-end RB2 if that's where you drafted him, right? If you drafted him RB1, you're 0-2 in your season already.
Oh, yeah.
But let's say 13 rushing attempts. Not terrible. But he converted that into 46 yards. That's it. No receptions, no touchdowns, no positive stats. Oh, but you know what? One stat that really did affect your box score in week 2? He lost a goddamn fumble. Mm-hmm. You have one job. And I thought the Chiefs and the Ravens was a scintillating game.
That was an incredible game, by the way.
I fell asleep because I was exhausted, and I thought the Chiefs were going to hang 2 touchdowns on them because of all the injuries that the Ravens are dealing with in the offensive side. I'm like, how are they going to score points? Lamar is an absolute animal.
Oh, yeah.
But Edwards-Helaire, you've done nothing to this point, and you're going to put the ball on the ground where it matters the most? Are you kidding me? Not only just fantasy purposes, but real life purposes. What are you doing? I am not in love with this guy's skill set. I'm not in love with his frame. I think Jack and I talked about this earlier. We think he's way too small to be a between the tackles, down the hill runner guy. You know, he's supposed to be what DeAndre Swift is for Detroit. Mm-hmm. He's somebody you can dump off slants, screens, RPOs, play actions.
You have to think circumstantially, but you can't even give him the benefit of the doubt because last season he was catching passes and he was getting down the field. But this is like a massive step down from what you would expect to be a step up, and you're in one of the most potent offenses in the NFL.
Darrell Williams is outscoring him with less volume in one game than Edwards-Helaire has in both.
All right, Jack, who do you got?
He was going even higher than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor was taken. I personally could not touch him. I owned him last year after drafting him in like the 4th round, but I couldn't touch him just because of the fact that Marlon Mack was back, the fact that Nyheim Hines always has a couple of games in the year where he makes him completely irrelevant. And when you're drafting at the end of the 1st round, there were guys there like Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, obviously at the time. And these guys were just in way better situations. They didn't have anyone who was going to take any workload away from them. Jonathan Taylor, he put up 6.3 PPR points last week. He's the number 24 running back in the season. My biggest concern was week 1 out the gate, he had 7 targets. Mm-hmm. This week he had 1. You know, and I think that's what we're going to expect, I think, coming forward, because they're going to pass the ball to Nyheim Hines. That's who they like to pass the ball to. And with Carson Wentz having both ankles rolled now.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's the funniest thing to me. How do you sprain both?
I don't know.
How does it always go? Nope, that's it. Both legs gone.
Yeah,
That's it.
I can just imagine him like falling outwards with both legs. So anyway,
Most Carson Wentz thing I've ever heard of. By the
yeah,
way.
exactly. And I think that's like Philly fans are looking like, I told you so, I told you so. But like honestly, like I think like Jonathan Taylor has been a big bust, and like you're looking for like proper great numbers out of the guy that you draft in the first round. Maybe in the second if you've got him there, but for the most part he's good in the first round, and Jonathan Taylor is not giving you that. So
I just agree. That's why I wanted to stay away from him too. Definitely. And then I was also looking at his schedule last year. His last year's schedule, the Colts had one of the easiest ones, and this year they have one of the toughest. So
absolutely,
I think Jonathan Taylor definitely.
I think people
is.
are riding what he did at the end of last year as well, because he was outstanding.
To be fair, he finished the season third in yards behind.
Yeah.
And although it was a very massive margin, it was behind obviously Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
He still finished third.
Yeah.
So there was substance to that argument, not enough substance. He had the high target share in week 1, which was promising. So he played like a first round running back.
Yeah.
But then week 2, you can kind of give the benefit of the doubt that they're playing the Rams. However, it's not promising because you don't know what's going to come out of that backfield.
Yeah.
The quarterback situation scared me more than anything in
Yeah.
Indianapolis. I still think Taylor is going to have some promise in the season, but here's a number that concerns me right now. And I know we're only 2 weeks in, but it's still something you want to look at. Last year, over the course of the season, he was averaging 5 yards a carry. Now he's a little over 3.
Mm-hmm.
So has he lost a step already? He's a little banged up. Yeah. No, can you attribute it just strictly to the quarterback play? You don't know. But that's something that I would want to keep in mind.
All right, Gil, who do you got?
All right. Well, I got to give this man the benefit of the doubt just for the circumstances that be. However, I'm going to be hard given how high he was drafted. Saquon Barkley of the Giants is disappointing. There is no other way to say it. How do you 3.7 points week 1 in most PPR leagues? Week 2 against the football team where Daniel Jones was kind of lighting it up. Crazy, right? 8.9 points. His best highlight in 2 weeks was a 40-yard run. And he hasn't hit the end zone yet. He hasn't hit the end zone yet. They don't have a steady RB2, so Saquon should be getting a bulk of the yardage. Wayne Gallman is gone, so you don't really have any promising stuff in the backfield. So Daniel Jones is left to pass with his ridiculous fumble hands that he has. I'm disappointed in Saquon Barkley. This is somebody that's taken high in the second round. People took him ahead of Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What I will say about that as well is I think that he has a huge chance at a big comeback game because he's playing the Falcons this week, and he's on a 10-day rest because they played Thursday. I think that's definitely worth noting. I think last week they were playing Washington, who have such a good run defense. I was telling people if you can sit him. You know, even for someone like Melvin Gordon, anyone. So it'll be interesting to see how he does this week.
But on top of that, you got to recognize, I think week 1 he played 47% of the snaps.
I think he was very questionable going in though, right, as well.
Yeah.
Going into week 2, he actually played 84%, and he still didn't perform as well, besides that one 40-yard rush. So.
It's not. I'm afraid it's not going to pan out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried
Yeah,
about.
no, maybe he won't produce maybe he doesn't have top 3 upside, which he did years ago, right?
Right.
And that's what you drafted him for. So
Guys, what team do I root for? I think we know we're here at this point.
Right.
Is it the
right,
Giants?
right, yeah.
Okay.
Is it the Giants?
Could have sworn you were a Patriots fan.
Yeah, yes and no. So I'm definitely a Giants fan, right? And I still think Barkley's going to be a disappointment. Not because of him per se, although I look at him in the field, I think he plays scared. I don't think he fully trusts the knee quite yet.
I agree. It looks concerning.
But you know what? No preseason. You know, their Giants are limiting his reps, limiting his snaps. So I get the hesitation in order to really go full go. But we're missing the elephant in the room here. That offensive line is still terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Thomas has played a little bit better in week 2, but in week 1 he was a turnstile. And the Giants don't have an easy schedule either. They're going to face Chase Young again. You know, they're facing the Rams later on in the year. The Bears, say what you want, I don't think their defense is great, but they still got Khalil Mack. So they got pass rushers that they have to face. Barkley's going to be facing a lot of stacked defenses as well, because I don't think Daniel Jones can keep it up. I didn't think he had this in him. He's a fantasy surprise to me.
Right.
But the limited volume that Barkley has is worrisome. And if you take away the 140-yard rush, but I think it was 45 yards that he went for,
I think 41 or something.
he had 12 to 13 yards the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So limited touches, but you're also not converting. He's the new Barry Sanders. If the hole's not there, in order for him to just go off and let off chunk yardage, Barkley's not making anything happen.
Yeah, and the amount of rushes that he had Thursday night, where it'd just be negative rush attempt for -1 or 2 yards after.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, but that also goes on the line in their injuries. But let's move on to the final running back dud we got here. I might get some backlash for this, but I'm just going to say it right now. Antonio Gibson should be performing better than we expected. Going into camp, everyone's saying he's going to have a CMC role. He's not going to be just a runner. He's going to be catching passes out of the backfield. Look, 20 rushing attempts week 1, 13 rushing attempts week 2, which is great. That's
like that.
what you're asking for.
Yeah.
But he's not getting the amount of targets and the amount of receptions that he should be getting.
Mm-hmm.
J.D. McKissick is outperforming him when it comes to targets, receptions-wise. Just look at the last game. He looked better, and then I also agree, like, he was a little banged up coming into the game. But 10.3 points week 1, 8.3 week 2. Some people might have even had this guy as their running back 1 if they drafted a wide receiver first. He's not putting up the right numbers, and I think Antonio Gibson should be doing better, at least right now.
Yeah, I can definitely piggyback off that. I think me and Nick were talking a little bit about this off air, and I think that the short game week definitely didn't help them.
Yeah.
I also think it was a little bit worrying because, like, with Ryan Fitzpatrick going down, you'd think to yourself, right, let's not throw Taylor Heinicke to the Wolves and have him throw a bunch of passes, although he played pretty well. Yeah. Maybe let's run with the guy who we know can run the ball, Antonio Gibson. And in the end, they ended up game planning a lot around J.D. McKissick instead. And maybe, as you said, maybe that was because he was questionable going in. They weren't sure what his status was going to be for the match. But it's definitely worth noting, given the fact that he hasn't put up huge numbers yet.
And you would think, like, a quarterback like Taylor Heinicke, like that, he would rely on his running backs and throw to him out of the backfield, but that just wasn't the case for Gibson. It was McKissick.
He loves targeting Terry. He loves targeting even Logan Thomas. Kind of like, I would argue that he's kind of got a love affair with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah,
it's helping me in my money league, but
All right, let's move on to another position here. We're going on to wide receivers, and Carlos, let's go with you.
All right, so my fantasy dud for wide receivers, this one's a little easier for me. I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson. I know Robbie Anderson still necessarily is going to be a top 25 receiver by the end of the year. I think he has the skill set. But DJ Moore has certainly eclipsed him.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of targets, it was 11 versus 6, yards 79 versus 38. But the most important thing was DJ Moore's gotten to the end zone. Robbie Anderson hasn't. Really short, simple. Robbie Anderson is not being used the same way this year as he was last year. He's being used like he was, and I'm going to steal Jack's thunder. He's being used the same way Adam Gase used him in New York as a jet. Just go be a burner, run a flat route, and see if you can beat the coverage. And that's not the way Robbie Anderson should be used.
And if not for that one catch for 57 yards and a touchdown in week 1, people would probably be looking to drop him right now because that saved his week. So, yeah. And I guess, like, piggybacking off that, like, another guy who's been terrible this year, I think, is Robert Woods. I know this is a guy we talked about, Bobby Trees. We've talked about him. He's ranked 40 overall so far going into the season, and he was taken in the 4th round. People are expecting Robert Woods to have similar numbers what he did last year. He was someone you could rely on week in, week out, 15 points a minimum.
Mr. Safe Floor.
Exactly, like 15, 20 points. I think the main product of this, which is obviously everyone knows, Cooper Kupp has gone for 16 catches, 271 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Gross.
Like,
unbelievable.
There's a big reason for that. He makes Matthew Stafford, or he goes to breakfast with Matthew Stafford every day. Maybe.
That's what you were telling me about that.
Maybe Robert Woods needs to go on those breakfast calls instead, because I think he's really struggling. I think he's going to be fine ultimately. Like, I think, like, as he, this is a new quarterback, but I think it's just a little bit alarming because he was that safe floor guy previously, and he's obviously not at the moment. So it's definitely worth noting. I think at the same time, I think he is a buy low candidate.
Yeah.
I think you might have managers kind of panicking out there. So yeah, I think he's a great guy.
Some really disappointing wide receivers. I'm gonna move into the AFC. AJ Brown. What the hell? What?
I have him in every league. Every league.
Not only did he and Julio have a bad game week 1, he had a bad game week 2, and Julio had a great one. Not to mention, obviously, Derek frickin' Henry. He hasn't hit 50 yards in a game yet. This is we're heading into week 3. AJ Brown hasn't seen a touchdown. He hasn't seen 50 yards. This man's sniffing 40 if he's lucky right now. What on earth are we witnessing? I am shocked. This is somebody everybody's had highly touted as the guy heading into the season for Tennessee. Now you have these two insane wide receivers in him and Julio Jones. Now, defenses can't stack the box against Derrick Henry. What are they doing? Still dishing it to Derrick Henry, feeding it to everybody that's not A.J. Brown. And again, he hasn't seen the end zone. I'm very concerned for people that own A.J. Brown.
He had the case of the dropsies.
And he does have a case of the drops.
He had 4 drops this week. I was watching that game. He had 4 drops.
My point exactly.
It's-
What on earth happened? What happened in this summer?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was kind of concerning because for me, well, we'll talk about this later, but for me, he literally lost me one of my weeks this week, him and Tannehill. So
Yeah.
anyway.
I think Tannehill and AJ Brown need to go have breakfast.
Yeah, they do. They need a case of the Rams.
Very good point. Very good point. All right. Now, finally, last one, wide receivers wise. A guy that we kind of grabbed late, thinking he's going to be a good sleeper. He's going to kill it for you in your league. He's going to be a game winner. I had Marquez Callaway from the New Orleans Saints, and just because of how such a great preseason that he had, even if it was Winston or it was Taysom Hill throwing him the ball, I think Callaway was supposed to be greater. But look at Week 1. 2.4 points. Week 2, 2.8. I don't understand. This team, after even Week 1, blowing out Green Bay 38-3, he still has only 1 reception for 14 yards. It's like they don't even want to look at him anymore. And Jack and I were talking about this before. I think he definitely is considered to be droppable right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like right now, Marquez Callaway should be doing better on this offense. But I think Winston might be coming back to old Winston from Tampa Bay
Yeah,
after last
famous
week's
James.
game. So I think it's going to be tough holding on to Marquez Callaway if you don't have any other options.
Unfortunately, won't be eating more W's, I guess, in New Orleans, but
Oh, I don't think so.
unfortunate.
All right. Next position we got here, tight ends. Carlos, who you got?
I'm going to go really quick on this one because, as we know, tight ends is a fantasy wasteland when it comes to positions. I'm going to go Dallas Goedert because 2 receptions for 24 yards just ain't going to get it done. But you would think, does that mean that Zach Ertz had a good game?
Mm-hmm.
No, he had one catch for 6 yards. So Jalen Hurts he balled out against Atlanta.
You would think they have depth at tight end that would cause some trouble for opposing defenses.
No,
But no.
Jalen Hurts don't need it.
No. He'd rather run it.
He ran 84 yards
Right,
on
yeah.
the San Francisco 49ers. That tells me right now Jalen Hurts is not looking at tight ends. If he's going to throw, he's going into one of those young receivers. Devontae Smith is somebody I might want to buy low on also. Because I know he's a little bit volatile. He's probably going to be the new Deshaun Jackson. I still like it because I think Hurts is not afraid to take those chances.
Yeah.
And he's playing to show Philadelphia he's the guy. But kind of a la Lamar Jackson, if he doesn't see the first second option, he's going to take off. That leaves no volume for the tight ends. I faded Goddard right now, and I have him in one league. I'm a little sad.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to go with someone who's a bit more of a bigger name, and that's George Kittle. I've talked about this before, but late or great, he was one of the great. He was one of the top 3. He was one of those guys that I took in a draft. I took him at the start of the 4th round. I had shares of those great guys, but he has not been great. He's at tight end 12 right now, and last week he had 4 catches for 17 yards. That's just
Brutal.
not going to cut it. I'm not worried about him per se, but I think Deebo Samuel is currently the yard leader in the NFL. I don't know if you guys knew that.
That's the funniest thing to me.
He's leading. Like Tyler Lockett, no. Cooper Kupp, no. Deebo Samuel's leading it. That's what's worrying for me. When Deebo Samuel is healthy, he is outstanding. And I
Yeah.
think they haven't had all the pieces together, yet. And now they do. Kittle, I think, is suffering a little bit, and I'm feeling a little bit
And
scared
they're
in one
using
more league.
Kittle more to block more than anything.
And he's great at
Well,
it.
he's great at blocking.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what
great
it
at
is.
it. But that doesn't get you any points in fantasy.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about here. So,
Imagine if it did.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo averaging over 250 yards in this season so far,
That's insane.
I like it. I like it, and Kittle's still not doing enough.
Can't we also just give an extra side shout out to Brandon Ayuk owners, man?
Oh, God.
I'm so sorry.
I'm still trying to trade you,
I'm
Rodney. Pull
so
the trigger.
sorry. Anyways. Moving to East, I have Mark Andrews. Look, people had him ranked as like the top 4 tight end in
Yeah.
fantasy.
That's fair.
The problem is he's an end zone target. You know who Lamar Jackson is seeing for the end zone? Hollywood freaking Brown.
Or himself.
Or himself
Calling his own
for
number.
flipping into the end zone, which also, by the way, has him with a sore hip for practice today.
Yeah. He started slow last year as well, if I remember rightly, and he came good. So I think he's one of those guys that, like, he's going to have up and down, but at the end of the day, he signed a 4-year deal for $60 million. So
Oh, he's
I
getting
think,
paid.
I think they're going to use him. It's just, he could be a buy low as well right now. It's just a question of.
And the problem with that is also you have they got in Sammy Watkins, which means it honestly, as crazy as it sounds, it's the best thing to happen to Hollywood Brown's career.
Finally here, tight end. Another questionable guy from Washington. I'm going Logan Thomas. You know, it doesn't help that Fitzmagic gets hurt the first game of the season. Maybe that doesn't help. But I still expect more from a guy. Only competition that he has is Scary Terry over here. Week 1, 10.5, pretty good because he had a nice touchdown. And then week 2, 7 against pitiful New York Giants defense. Look, I'm sorry. If you drafted him, he was around top 5, top 6 being drafted around there.
I don't know about that. I kind of want to argue this, Nick, simply because he's not expected to be the top target. However, his target share is still pretty good. Yeah. Regardless of he runs into some tight coverages, he'll drop the ball. I understand that part, but you still want to take the bet on him, especially because of how many targets Taylor Heineke is getting to him.
Well, I'm also basing off last season's numbers towards the end, too. Right. Look at his numbers from there. He wasn't even mentioned the first, actually a good 3/4 of the season. And towards the end, he ends up becoming, the tight end 4 out of it. Well, that's not saying anything because the tight end position, like we said, it's not really not what you're really looking for. But
you have to chase volume at the tight end position. Yeah. And I think if he's getting it, he's someone who potentially, could, if he finds the end zone, he's putting up tight end 1 numbers. Yeah. So that's a big thing, and I think he has a bigger chance than most. So.
And it also didn't help that Ricky Seals-Jones has an amazing catch in the end zone and steals it against Logan Thomas.
Nuts.
That also didn't help either.
Please, don't open up wounds.
But let's finally go into the last position here, quarterbacks. Carlos, who you got?
So I'm going to throw a hypothetical question out here, just because I've been thinking in my head. 2 former SEC quarterbacks, one from Georgia, one from LSU, and Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow. In terms of skill set, do you guys see too much of a difference between them? I don't. I find them as both kind of immobile quarterbacks. They're going to go through their progressions, but they're both stay in the pocket guys. Do you see it any differently than I do? Because I don't.
No.
All right. So with that said, here is what the Bears gave up against the Rams. They gave up 34 points, and they weren't able to touch Stafford. Now, against Joe Burrow, they got 5 sacks, they got 3 picks, they got a fumble, and they got a touchdown.
Do you remember that the Bengals have one of the worst O-lines in the league?
Yes, but we're not going to talk about the Bears like this is the 85 Bears. This is still a middling pack defense Bears. Last year, they were ranked 19th in fantasy defenses. So they're not exactly lighting the world on fire. And this is why I got Joe Burrow as a dud in terms of fantasy quarterbacks. Now, is he your overall QB1? Hell no. You better not have taken him, but he should have been a solid backup. And you have weapons. I like T. Higgins. I like Tyler Boyd. I like Jamar Chase now that he fixed the drop problems. I'm a big fan of Joe Mixon. That's a lot of talent around there. I know the line dictates everything, but Joe Burrow, you cannot give up 3 picks like that. You're not facing, Jalen Ramsey. You're not facing, Josh Norman in his prime. You're facing a regular middle-of-the-pack Bears defense. Joe Burrow is a complete egg for me right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to struggle with that offensive line. I think it's more like the situation that is killing him rather than the player. I think the player could be good, but he's never going to have time on the ball.
The fact that he can't seem to scramble out of the pocket, that concerns me.
It goes back to the Saquon argument. He might be playing scared because of the knee.
Yeah.
I could see it. Okay, for me, I mentioned him earlier as well, and I think you guys are in agreement, but it's Ryan Tannehill. Now, obviously, this was a guy that, for me, I was targeting late in pretty much all my drafts. I love Ryan Tannehill this year. I love the fact that Arthur Smith is now gone. He's with the Falcons. He loved running the ball. I love the fact that they added Julio Jones and the fact that he had A.J. Brown and Julio, arguably the best wide receiver pairing in the league at the moment. Mm-hmm. But he's put up 15.2 and 14.6 points. And the reason I'm tilting is because in one league I have Tannehill and A.J. Brown, and it literally cost me my week because those guys did not play well. Now, yes, he probably would have had a better fantasy output this week had A.J. Brown caught the ball more than 3 times on his 9 targets and had Julio fallen into the end zone. So I think he needs to.
That was a touchdown, by the way.
Yes, honestly, yeah. Well, it should have been a touchdown, but anyway, that's beside the point. He needs to start as a fantasy QB. If you want him to start putting up QB1 numbers, he needs to start rushing the ball a bit, which is something he is capable of doing, and he needs to get that efficiency back, which he had last year, and start getting the ball to A.J. Brown, start getting the ball to Julio a little bit more. Obviously, Derrick Henry had 36 total touches this week, so
what are you supposed to
it's
do?
really hard to kind of dig on that too much. But yeah, I just don't like Tannehill so far this season. I don't like what I've seen.
Yeah, moving into that, I just think it's like you don't expect him to put up wild numbers, but he's consistent. You expect that.
Yeah, efficient.
Yeah. I'm gonna move to the West. My quarterback, Justin Herbert. What? This man was ranked ahead in most ESPN, Yahoo, you name it. He was ranked ahead of Tom Brady. Can you believe that?
A lot of people were.
Now listen.
People just don't want to believe.
The crazy part is both weeks.
Is Brady getting better?
Statistically, if you're not looking at this from a fantasy standpoint, he's having decent games. Over 300 yards on the air. You know, getting touchdowns.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's turning the ball over.
Yeah.
A lot, and it's scary. The thing is, week 1, a fumble, an interception. Week 2, 2 interceptions against the Cowboys. This man's running for his life because they have a decent way to get to the quarterback. I'm concerned. He has all these options. He's hitting Eckler short. I remember a play last Sunday against Dallas where he had Eckler dead in his face, and you know what he does? He ends up scrambling and then throws a pick.
Yeah.
Right?
I think he's just a little bit panicked. I think we got to realize how young he is though as well. Like no one expected him to do anything last year. I think it's one of those things where I think he's as we talked about off air, he's one of the 3 quarterbacks who's thrown over 300 yards in both games. So it's I think he should be okay, but it's another one of those where it's nerves out the gate. You know, that's what it looks like.
I don't know. I'm going to push back a little bit because last year he had baptism by fire.
But he was lighting it up.
Because it was a Tyrod Taylor needle to the chest.
But now people expect it.
Yeah, but the thing was, he was tearing defenses apart last year.
Yeah, now people expect it. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the nerves. Maybe could we just write it off to a bad game?
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that it was Dallas scares me.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried
chalk
about.
it up to a bad game.
Now, see, look. I think he's got a make-or-break moment this incoming week against Kansas City. The Kansas City defense isn't normally known for getting to the quarterback that easily. So, on top of that, I could expect them to hit Eckler a lot.
And I'm actually kind of positive about Herbert going into this Kansas City game because Kansas City was the team that he actually started off against. So we'll see how it goes coming up. And to top it all off, I actually have someone that you probably drafted super early over, your wide receiver 2, running back 2, Josh Allen over here. Josh Allen is coming off to a very, very slow start right now. And you know what? It all comes down to Devin Singletary actually running the ball this year.
Who knew?
Who would have thought they had a good backfield? What?
Who would have thought Devin Singletary was going late in drafts? So it was very surprising. Now the Bills' defense actually is really good too, so they don't really have to throw the ball downfield in order to keep up with these high-powered offenses because the defense is good, the running game's good, so he doesn't have to produce as much as he did have to do last year. And finally, he actually has faced some very tough defenses in the Steelers, the Dolphins, and they just got ahead of the Dolphins, so he didn't have to do anything. So,
yeah, I think it was a bit of a product of game script this week, wasn't it, for sure? I think the 3 touchdowns to the running back positions, and I think am I right in saying that he went down early? I think it was one of the last plays of the game where he could have rushed in for a touchdown, and he went down so that he didn't have to rush in.
That's a coaching thing. They're trying to coach the running out of it.
But you know what I mean. So again, if he'd done that, that would be 6 more points.
Yeah.
The 15 or whatever you had this week would have been 21. It might have looked a bit more. But another buy low candidate, I think. I keep saying that. I keep harping these duds.
Yeah.
They're good players, but I think situationally they just had bad first games, first couple of games.
And I just got a trade proposal. Someone wanted to give me Josh Allen and someone on their bench for Kyler Murray. And I told him, what are you talking about? Kyler Murray's balling out over here. So, all right. From that note, we're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Four Horsemen, everybody. I'm Gil. On my side right here, we got Carlos, Nick, and Jack. This is going to be a really funny segment, people. This is what I like to call therapy session. So, it sounds exactly like we're advertising right now. Guys, fantasy is a stressful environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go as a roundtable and discuss things that have stressed us out and why they do such a thing. Because, again, there is nothing good about this damn game. Now, breathe with me, boys. Woo-sa. Now.
Serenity now. Serenity now.
Peaceful environment. You know, maybe we might get some peaceful music in here in post-production. We don't know.
You can bank on it. I already have it in my head.
Perfect. All right. We're going to get started with Carlos. I know he's got something up his sleeve. Take your time.
I have to take a deep breath.
Take your time.
All right, this is a safe place, right? I'm going to lay down here for a
This
second.
is a
No-
safe
no
environment, but I'm rushing you.
All right. So I'm going to kind of cheat here for fantasy therapy because it didn't really affect me too much in my fantasy matchup, which was great in my main league. You know, this particular defense only gave me 2 points. But can I tell you, it broke my heart in real life. And I'm talking about, if everybody has been listening to this show, I'm going to be consistent. This particular defense gave up 30 points. They had 1 turnover at the key point of the game. May I present to you who the opposing quarterback was? 336 yards for 2 touchdowns. It's pretty solid, right? Yeah, if you're a starter, you'll take that. It was a goddamn backup in Taylor Heineke from the Washington football team. The Giants cannot stop Taylor Heineke. And the Giants cannot stop the Giants. And what I mean by that is the Giants, who gets an offsides call and a special team? I know I'm in the red in the meters. I don't care right now. You want therapy? This is therapy. The Giants cannot stop Taylor Heineke with Antonio Gibson being subpar. You give up a rushing touchdown to J.D. McKissick, and you do nothing on offense. Jason Garrett, what kind of goddamn play calling is that when you finally get the touchdown from the interception from Bradbury? You go 3 and out, and you give Taylor Heineke the ball with less than 2 minutes, and he drives down the field.
Okay, this might be counterproductive at this point.
Hey. Deep breaths, Carlos.
No, but-
we all need this. We all need this.
No, but honestly, I'm livid. And you know why? Because this defense could have costed me. If I was playing anybody that had a decent, if I was playing Derrick Henry, I would have lost.
Yeah.
Because the Giants defense gives you 2 fantasy points. You're supposed to show up. This defense I'm losing my mind. Adoree Jackson came over from Tennessee. You have Logan Ryan. You have James Bradbury. You know, these are 3 quality cornerbacks. Jabril Peppers, has he shown up at all this season? You know, O'Shea Jimenez, was supposed to be your pass rusher in the 3rd round that you picked up because you passed up on 1st-round talent when you took Daniel Jones over Josh Allen and wound up going the next pick to Jacksonville. This defense was serviceable last year. They didn't show up against this game. It was a complete shootout. The under on this game was like 48.5. It finished 30-29.
Did you expect the Giants to have a good game?
I didn't expect them to have a great game. I expected them to, I expected the defense to show up. And in a critical moment, you lay down penalty after penalty and you let Heineke run down the field. Again, for fantasy purposes, it's only 2 points, so there were other options that could have killed you. It could have killed me if I was facing anybody that was worth a damn. But no, this is my therapy session. I'm out of here, guys, for the rest of the day. Take over. Nick, you're the only Giants fan worth mentioning here anymore.
Carlos, just take a breath. Take a breath. It's okay. It's okay.
You've got it out now.
All right.
You feel better.
I feel like I'm going to eat some pizza when I get out of this. Like,
This is
very
good.
cathartic. This is good for my soul.
This is good for your soul. This is good for the soul.
So.
You guys are experiencing what might be peak humor because you guys can't see it. I was laughing my ass off just now.
Oh yeah.
I know we said it's a judgment-free zone. I'm sorry.
I hate you guys for judging. You guys are liars.
All right. Anyways, we're gonna move to Jack. Jack, please, the room is yours.
I will not be quite as aggressive in this one. However, I did tell you guys last week pretty much that I was 2-0 in this one league because I was up 50 points going into the Monday night game.
Oh no.
And I was facing Aaron Jones and Robert Tunyon.
Aaron Jones, how do you do?
He did okay. He had 4 touchdowns,
He was
so
fine.
it was very good. Plus Tunyon's touchdown as well. So they ended up scoring 55 points. So I ended up losing. So I'm not 2-0. I am 1-1 in that league. So that was my big one. The more frustrating part for me, which I was more invested in, I don't know why. I think it was because it was on the Sunday. I was in another league, and Buffalo defense went off. They had 22 points. They were great, and Tannehill and AJ Brown I lost by 12, which obviously sounds like quite a lot, but AJ Brown had like 7 points. Tannehill had like 14, and my kicker was from Miami. who didn't score a point. Like they did not score a single. That was
Sanders.
what really got me.
Yeah,
Jason
Jason
Sanders,
Sanders.
who I have now dropped for Matt Prater, who will probably also not score a point this week.
Oh, but
So-
he'll get you a 60-yarder.
Yeah. Oh well, exactly, and I'll take that over 0 points. So those are my rants for the week. But I'm feeling good about my team, so I'm actually not too terrible right now. So
All right, so listen. That was great. I'm glad you feel better.
I do.
Now, I'm going to go because I got a lot on my plate right now. Dak Prescott. What the hell?
I played him.
You played against him.
I played against him, and it was the one I lost by 12.
You played against me and I had him.
Oh, true. I played against him twice.
What? Come on. I had him. This man lit up the Buccaneers. 28 points.
Gil,
And
you wouldn't have beaten me if he'd played well. Come on.
I don't want to hear it right now.
It was like a 30-point differential.
If you put up 20 more, at least I would have been okay with a close loss. Okay?
True. Okay.
Listen,
All right. I don't want to shoot him out when he's down.
dude. Matt Ryan played better than him.
And Matt Ryan's playing like a ball.
And Matt Ryan is a bum. I'm so disappointed. Moving on. I said Justin Herbert already, but for the love of God, I'm 2 weeks in. Week 1, I played the Steelers defense, and they put up 14 points. Week 2, I played the Bills defense, and they put up 22. Can the defenses just stop popping off on me this year? Come on.
Be grateful you didn't play the Patriots defense.
Oh my
They
God.
had 19.
They had
actually
19.
They had
Oh my-
19, so
No,
they didn't
I'm
have 22.
I'm scared. I don't know what to expect. I'm scared. I am frightened for what's gonna happen. Next thing you know, I could be playing the Seahawks defense for 1 week, and all I know, they're gonna have like 3 sacks and 2 pick sixes. I am nervous. I am scared. They're putting me in a corner, and I don't like it.
Oh, be nervous because you're playing me, and I have Denver, who's facing the Jets.
Oh yeah.
I hope, for the love of God, that Zach Wilson lights you up.
He'll light me up with 5 interceptions.
Oh, goodness. I am done. I've had my piece. We are okay. Moving to Nick.
All right, guys. All right. This, from what you're about to hear, it's very rare to happen at all. But for it to happen week 1, I had one of the best weeks in the league. I had a score of 137.4 points. My friend who I went up against had 137 flat. And I won on Sunday night. I had no Monday night players. He had no Monday night players. Well, let me tell you right now. I lost on Wednesday due to a... Can I swear on this? All right, probably not. I lost to a stat correction.
This is the loudest I've ever heard Nick.
I could not tell you how upset I was when I woke up Wednesday morning and saw I had a loss, 0-1 instead of 1-0, because George Kittle didn't fumble that damn ball.
Well, he didn't.
Well, he didn't.
He didn't.
But
so-
I didn't know that 3 days later. He said it.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, Nick.
So I lost.
Breathe.
I lost,
Lower the volume if you got it.
and I thought I won. I'll tell you right now, that Sunday night, he had Cooper Kupp, and I thought I won when he hit his knee at the ground before the goal line. Nope. Cooper Kupp actually ended up destroying me that game,
Yeah, he did.
and I lost by 1.4. And just to let you know, now I'm 0-2 instead of 1-1. But you know what? This is why we made up this segment,
Yeah.
to get it all out in the air, and just so
We all feel bad.
we can all feel better.
Breathe.
I hate to revel in your misery, but I like this, Nick. I like this, Nick. We
Nick,
need
can
more
you bring this every
we need
week?
more animated Nick.
Oh, trust me, if another one like that happens, I will let you guys know.
I think what we can take from this segment is that if you're listening to this and you're 0-2, just remember, do not give up the season. I know many people who have come back from 0-2 and end up winning their championship. If you can just make the playoffs and you have a better team, make trades, buy low on players, I just think people just get way too over into it in that first 2 weeks and they just give up.
Listen, everybody listening right now, if you're in a rut, it's going to be okay.
It will.
It's going to be okay. Everything will be fine. Just do what we did. Breathe, scream your lungs out at something, because God knows this is not a fun line of business we're all in.
A very smart man once said, RELAX. Relax. Relax.
I thought it was spelled wrong.
I was going through it. I was like, wait. I did it right. All right, cool. All right, thanks for listening to us. Carlos, Jack, Gil, myself,
Thanks, guys.
Nick. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll hear you guys next week.
Peace.